Hello, and welcome to the Colorado Board for Master Clinic presentation on the 2019-2020 NFHS rule changes, editorial changes, and points of emphasis. The game is in good shape, as evidenced by the fact that the majority of the rules changes for this season involve uniforms and apparel only. The first change for this year makes uniform numbers that use the team jersey color itself, bordered with not less than two 1/4 inch solid borders that contrast with the team jersey color, illegal beginning in 2024-2025. The change is being made because the numbers are difficult to see from the stands, for the officials, and on video. The NFHS and Board 4 have advised schools that purchase uniforms between now and 2024-25 should not have numbers that use the same color as the jersey that is currently allowed. The headband rule has been changed to allow headbands up to 3 inches in width. The change was made primarily to be consistent with volleyball, which allows for 3-inch headbands. The balance of the headband rule is unchanged. By definition, a headband is any item that goes around the entire head. It must be a circular design without extensions, must be worn on the forehead or crown, must be non-abrasive and unadorned, and can be no more than 3 inches wide. Headbands also must be black, white, beige, or the predominant color of the jersey. The color must be the same for all teammates, and the same as wristbands, tights, and sleeves. Only one headband may be worn. Hair control devices do not fall under the headband rule. Hair control devices are not required to meet color restrictions, and hair control devices go around the hair only, not the entire head. In previous seasons, it is likely you have had to deal with players rolling their shorts. Effective this year, players are permitted by rule to roll their shorts while meeting certain restrictions. Players may roll their shorts provided multiple manufacturers' logos are not visible, the drawstring does not present a safety hazard, and the anatomy is sufficiently covered. While previously worn, this year mouthguards are legal by rule, as long as they meet certain provisions regarding their components and are properly fitted. Mouthguards are not required equipment in Colorado. The provisions regarding the components of a mouthguard can be found in Rule 3-5-8. This year's rule change permits not only the head coach, but any number of assistants to leave the bench area and enter the court in the situation where a fight may break out or has broken out to prevent that situation from escalating. Thanks to Denise Lopez for submitting this rule change and Chassa for forwarding it to the NFHS Rules Committee. Even though any number of assistant coaches may enter the floor to help with the fighting or potential fighting situation, head coaches should have a plan for which assistant coaches enter the court and which ones remain on the bench to secure the bench personnel. We have only one editorial change this year. This exception needed to be clarified because of a previously incorrect interpretation provided by the NFHS. When a ball in control by a team in its front court is deflected, and the defensive team is the last to touch the ball before it goes into the back court, it can be legally retrieved by either team. If a member of the offensive team was the last to touch the ball in the front court. The defense may only recover the ball legally. As is the case every year, the NFHS publishes its points of emphasis, identifying areas of the game that need attention without necessarily changing the rules. This year, the NFHS has identified 4 such areas. As we discussed earlier, the rule was changed this year to allow for 3-inch headbands and to clarify that hair control devices are not required to meet color restrictions. The committee wants to ensure that officials, coaches, and players are clear on the changes and that headbands and hair control devices are not the same or interchangeable. In review, headbands go around the entire head and have color restrictions. They can be up to 3 inches wide, must be a single solid color, can have one manufacturer's logo, and cannot have extensions. Hair control devices only go around the hair and do not have color restrictions. Items such as bobby pins, beads, or barrettes made of hard substances are not permitted to be worn. By rule, a medical alert medal or bracelet must be taped to the person securely, with the medical information being visible. This rule applies regardless of the type of material the medical alert bracelet is made of. In all likelihood, because there are so many throw-ins during a typical game, the throw-in and throw-in violations are a point of emphasis this year. In review, the throw-in and the throw-in count begin when the ball is at the disposal of a player of the team entitled to the throw-in. The throw-in ends in one of 3 ways: when a pass ball touches or is legally touched by another player inbounds, when a pass ball touches or is touched by another player out of bounds, except when a team is entitled to move along or pass the ball along the end line as after a goal, or the throw-in team commits a violation. In every throw-in situation, except a throw-in after a goal by an opponent, throw-ins are designated spot throw-ins. For designated spot throw-ins, the official designates the throw-in spot, which is 3 feet wide, has the inside edge of the boundary line as its forward limit, and has no backward depth limitation. Pivot foot restrictions are not in effect for a designated spot throw-in. The thrower must keep 1 foot on or over the designated spot until the ball is released on a pass onto the court. It is a violation to leave the designated spot prior to releasing the ball on a pass onto the court. Besides leaving the designated throw-in spot, there are 3 additional throw-in violations. The failure to pass the ball onto the court inbounds or out of bounds, so that it is legally touched by or touches another player before going out of bounds, is a violation. Except during a throw-in after a goal, passing the ball so it is touched by a teammate while on the out-of-bounds side of the throw-in boundary line plane is also a violation. The final throw-in violation is the failure to release the ball on a pass directly onto the court before the official's visible throw-in count reaches 5. Both the National Federation and CHASA understand the importance of having game officials meet with the game administrator prior to the contest. Game officials are responsible for the conduct of the game, and administrators are to manage spectators and crowd control. CHASA recommends that, if possible, the referee should contact the school ahead of time to arrange the meeting. If that is not possible, ask to meet the administrator when you arrive. Secure a process for coming on and off the floor and how you will communicate with the administrator during the game. Game officials should meet with a school administrator prior to their pregame to discuss supervision and crowd control. As game officials, you do not have responsibility for crowd control. Game administration is responsible to be proactive in both crowd supervision and crowd control. They should address inappropriate spectator behavior before it escalates. Game administrators should not wait for the game officials to point out a problem. Spectators should be prohibited from using abusive language or behavior toward players, coaches, or officials. They should also be prohibited from approaching or going onto the court or being allowed in areas where confrontations could be possible. Should a fan need to be removed during a game, the officials should notify the game administrator and ask that person to handle the problem. In no situation should officials directly remove spectators from a contest. Effective this season, IAABO has adopted a new held ball signal sequence. Officials are instructed to first use the stop the clock signal, followed by the held ball signal. The held ball signal is no longer an approved stop the clock signal. Thanks for participating in this year's online rules presentation for Colorado Board 4's Master Clinic. If you have any questions regarding the rules changes or the presentation, please email them to Dave Smith at ddsmith1985@outlook.com. Questions and responses will be compiled and disseminated to all officials. Thanks again for your attention, and have a great season.